Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dice on Ice. My name is Megan, and tonight marks our first
Hello, everyone.
episode
Welcome
of When Streets Run Red, a Blood Knight-centered, very short-ish Crifoth campaign. We'll be running about 10 seconds, or 10 seconds, 10 sessions. And so I'm just going to announce our great, amazing players that we have. We have Wraith, played by Connor, Vixana, played by Alan, Chance, played by Anna, and you guys will meet Anathema next time we play, who is played by Taylor. And so, without further ado, let's begin. Welcome to Hell. Vixana, you can feel the sweat mixing with the grime on your face as the suns beat down upon your brow. And you feel the sand crunch beneath your feet. There's a few other Blood Knights with you, but they don't know what truly happened just a few hours beforehand. But, Vexana, you are just coming back from burying your crore mates, your brothers and sisters in arms. Tell me, what is she doing? How is she feeling as she returns to the main Blood Knight camp?
So Vexana, she's walking somberly towards camp. Her walking staff with her is pretty much what's holding her up, as her feet are not lifting quite fully off the ground. They're kind of skidding across the dirt. And in her hand, she has kind of charms and other trinkets that she will remember her fallen comrades by, kind of just wrapped in her arm, and they kind of dangle in the wind, just kind of like a wind chime as she moves into camp. Her face is scraped and bloodied. The ash that she covers her skin in is wiped away for the most part, kind of smeared, her red skin showing through, her reddish maroon hair dusted, and she is trying to hold back the tears in her eyes.
And as you approach, you see a tiefling that maybe you've met once or twice before. Her name is Victory, and you know her to have been just promoted as a crore captain. And she stands there looking at you with these calculating eyes. And as you approach, she says, "Ah, good. Vexana. It's time that you met with your new crore." And Wraith, you've been waiting beside Victory for a bit. Waiting for your third member of your crore. And Chance, you've been waiting there as well. This is your first time, your first crore, your first time being Blood Knights. And as you stand outside on the sands, the sun beating down, though is a bit covered by the Blood Knight structure, which is an old dilapidated building. What is going through your minds? Have you two spoken in the time that you met and have been standing out here?
Wraith is sitting cross-legged in the sand. He's with these sharp nails picking at his skin, picking at the numerous scabs and scars that litter his red arm. And as he does so, small droplets of blood would pool from these little scabs, removed. He seems agitated. He fidgets. He bites at his nails. He's restless. And you can see that he is shirtless, and his back is lined with thousands of lashings of scars that decorate his back in a gruesome, sanguine way.
Noticing this nervous tick of kind of this scratching and picking at the arm, Chance kind of leans in a little bit. She's in complete contrast, kind of this stark white, very rare for a tiefling to be undergoing this process. And she leans in to not too close, keeping a safe distance from Wraith, and she says, if you keep doing that, you're gonna really mess up your arm. It won't be very great for the new Crore.
Wraith looks at you and just licks the sharpened teeth that he has, but says nothing.
And she kind of raises her eyebrows a little bit, like, okay, not one for conversation.
And the two of you are interrupted as Victory welcomes your final Blood Knight. Vexana, you see Wraith and Chance, and you can immediately pinpoint them as new. They look new. The burns on their hands from the ceremony that they had conducted to induct them into the Blood Knights is still fresh. You see this. How do you react?
Vexana turns to Victory. My new Crore? My last Crore hasn't even been buried for a day. And yet you want to stick me with 2 new members fresh from their ritual?
Well, as it stands now, the others, who are more, perhaps, resourceful and anyway, they are unavailable. You need a new Crore. Crifoth does not wait for the dead, or for those who have finished weeping. We must act, and we must act swiftly. Therefore, I am ready to assign you your first mission. She kind of turns to the rest of you, and she says, "A group of Blood Knights are scouting the Eastern District. But there has been a demon that has been causing some issues for them completing their mission. Your job is to dispatch of that demon, or at least get it away from these other Blood Knights. Do I make myself clear?"
Wraith's hands begin to shake at the mention of dispatching a demon. Yes. He gets up off his cross-legged sitting and gets to his feet.
And Victory looks at you, Vexana. Is that understood?
And she kind of grits for a moment. Yes. We will dispatch of this demon, and hopefully I will not have to dig 2 new graves. And she just kind of shoulder bumps Victory as she presses on.
Very well. And Victory would hold her fist over her chest in the customary Blood Knight send-off. And so, do you guys start walking towards the Eastern District? Or to the east?
I'd say yes. And probably taking a little bit more initiative than maybe Vexana would be super happy with. I would kind of just be walking forward.
So your marching order, what would that be, do you think?
Wraith would be behind Vexana, wherever she is marching.
No?
And
What do you figure?
Are we heading I mean, are you just talking about general marching order? Are we heading somewhere?
No, just general, like if there's anyone, kind of ahead of everyone else. These streets are pretty wide, but...
Oh, gotcha.
Chance kind of like would take up the end if no one else wants to take it up.
Okay. So, you guys are walking, and you all see a scarbird that is hopping kind of above you across from building to building, making its horrific squawking noise. And then there's 2, and then 3, and soon 7 sit on the next building watching you. But otherwise, the streets are quiet. And as you walk, you hear the sound of a child crying. Quiet at first, but slowly getting louder, and then you realize that this child is in one of the rundown buildings. Or at least that's where the sound seems to be coming from. Do you stop? Do you keep going? What do you do?
Chance would probably react pretty notably to this. You guys hear that? A child crying. I think in one of those buildings.
It's a trap. It's bait. I've heard the wails before.
Oh, really?
My brother was one of them one time.
What do you think? You obviously have a lot more experience than the two of us talking to Vexana.
And at first, Vexana would want to just keep moving. This is not her priority. But listening to the cries, it kind of takes her back to when she was a young child with her tribe before they were slaughtered by demons. And she just kind of stops mid-stride, listening to the cry, and she turns back and says, "It may be a trap. Hell, it probably is a trap. But we
What
would
if it's not?
I agree. We wouldn't be Blood Knights if we didn't at least attempt to save this child in need."
I'm happy we agree. And Chance smiles, maybe a little cleanly than would be appropriate.
And so, who would go in first?
I think Chance would be happy going in first.
And so, Chance, you walk in, and at first it's dark. The only light coming from it is the natural light that comes in through some of the shattered windows or through some of the openings of the boarded up windows. But the opposite corner is extremely dark, and these wails are getting louder as you walk in. Do you walk any closer? Do you stand at the threshold?
I stand at the threshold and I kind of look to Vexana probably, and a little probably to Wraith too, and I just hold up a hand, like, just wait a second. And at the threshold, I'll say, "Hello? Child? Are you there? We're here to help. We're Blood Knights."
And the screams and the wails turn into words. Help! Please! Help! It's so dark! I can't see anything. You see no movement in these shadows, however.
Vexana would put a hand on Chance's shoulder. "Do not be so hasty. And Vexana would speak in sort of a guttural, demonic tone as she utters the spell of Detect Magic.
I imagine that Detect Magic will light up your surroundings, kind of like heat vision does, where you can see kind of the centers of where the magic is the strongest. And you see that there is a figure, a humanoid figure. And they are red hot with this magic. You can see their outline almost perfectly in these shadows.
Yeah, Vexana's eyes would narrow, and she would flash her canines. Show yourself, fiend!
And you would hear this pitter-patter of feet on hardwood, and this hissing noise. And out from the shadows emerges a human. Bedraggled, worn. I need everyone to make a perception check, please. Wraith and Vexana, the human that walked out did not match the voice that you heard. You heard the sound of a child's cry. This is not a child. This is an adult, but a human for all intents and purposes. Human looking. And she walks slowly toward you. Her right leg drags. And she's making this horrible, horrible hissing sound.
Does she wear the rags of a slave?
Yes. And she has the collar still, well, forever attached to her neck. And when she speaks... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said likewise, Wraith looks down to his collar, still bound around his neck too.
And as she's walking towards you, she begins to speak. And she says, I'm sorry for the deception. I didn't think... Well, I thought it was more likely that someone would come and help me if it sounded like a child. But clearly, I am not. Have you come to take me back? Have you come to take me back to the pens? I am so tired.
And Chance kind of blurts out, we're not with the legions. Don't worry about that. And maybe that wasn't a good idea, but...
Oh, the Blood Knights. I don't know which is worse.
Oh, yeah?
She lets out just this low wheeze.
Vexana scoffs. What to do? If you're too weak, returning you to the pits is simply a death sentence. Why not execute now and be on our way?
Her reaction is odd. She doesn't go back in fear. She doesn't even look at you with surprise. She just kind of sighs like she was expecting that response, that she knew that response was going to happen.
I'm sorry, execute? The hell are you talking about? We're not...
It would be a kinder service. Would you simply want her to work to death or ease her suffering now?
Why the hell does she need to work? Why can't she come and live back with us?
She would turn to look at Wraith. You know all too well, don't you?
He nods.
Ah, so you're new. The thing is, girly, humans don't step foot into Blood Knight territory without becoming whatever you are themselves. They would kill me on sight. I am too injured. But maybe if you led me out of the city towards the sands, I might have a chance. But maybe not. My fate is in your hands, it seems.
I know the waste. You would not fare a day in your condition. It's best if you let us send you on to wherever beyond this hellish place. I can promise you it will be quick and painless.
Wraith flinches when you say the word quick and painless. Just as if it struck him within. He would raise a hand as if to halt you, but then retreat back again.
Chance is kind of eyes darting back from Vexana to this escaped slave, and then kind of back and forth, just like, and gradually this expression of like, what the hell? It kind of is mixing also with a little bit of fear. But she doesn't say anything.
And after looking at you for a moment, all three of you, giving you long looks, her eyes finally rest on you, Vexana, and without breaking eye contact, she slowly gets down on her knees and bows her head in front of you. I suppose that it's better than being eaten, disemboweled by some roaming fiend out there. Just promise you'll make it quick. I don't know how much more pain my soul can bear.
And Vexana would nod, and she would go for the hunting knife at her belt as it slides from its little leather scabbard. And she turns to Chance and proffers the handle. You must do this.
And Chance looks at Vexana in the eyes and says, "No."
Wake up, child! Do you not know where you are? Do you not know what you are? A demon would soon take your life if you were to hesitate. You are doing this person, and she says that hesitantly, a service.
And Chance looks at Vexana's hands. "You got 2 good hands. Why don't you do it?" And she also looks at Wraith. "He looks like he's got 2 good hands too. Why do I have to do it?"
Because I know he would do it. And I know, because I have done it. But I see it in you. I see still too much humanity that the ritual did not stifle.
Yeah, and it's not going to go away. That's my whole point.
As the two of you are kind of escalating in volume in your argument, Wraith looks nervously over his shoulders down the streets and up in the building tops, looking for any sign that our sound may have carried and attracted unwanted attention.
Wraith, make me a perception check, please. Or investigation, whichever.
18.
You hear it is barely audible until you begin to listen. You begin to drown out the other 2 voices. And you hear this clicking noise. Just
Wraith would repeat this noise in Vexana's ear while gesturing to the cityscape behind. He looks nervous. He wrings his hands. He digs at his own flesh with his sharpened nails. But he's just repeating this clicking sound.
And would Vexana know what this sound would indicate?
I don't... It could be many things. I think that it is too ambiguous to tell at this time. It could be an insect clicking, or it could be the sound of hooves or nails. Whatever it is, however, you know that you are not alone.
Wraith slinks into this building to find cover from the outside, using the shadows as cover. He gestures with one finger across his neck while looking at the slave. He looks impatient and restless, like normal.
Just get on with it!
We have lingered here too long. And Vexana would turn to the blade, and she would kneel down, and she would grab this slave by the back of her head, and she would press the knife up to her neck and look her in the eye. I'm sorry. And with one quick motion, the blade would slide across as flecks of blood would begin to trickle onto the floor.
And you would see in the last moment before death claimed her, when she was still in control of her muscles, a slight smile and the look of rest and peace would come across her face, but also sadness, maybe guilt. But it's too quick to tell as her eyes suddenly become blank and lifeless, and her head kind of lolls back, and her weight becomes heavy in your hands. This clicking noise becomes louder. With the sound of buzzing, maybe just zzz, zzz, zzz. It's not continuous. It ends, it begins, it goes for different periods of time. What do you do?
Do you think I would have heard it by now?
I think that, yeah, I think that by now all of you will have heard it.
Chance probably had looked away for when this was when this whole little scene was transpiring, and probably as she was looking away trying to find a way to distract herself, that's probably when the sound caught her attention. She, the hell's that? And she kind of puts her hand is at her sword at her side, and she's looking around trying to find the source. Does it sound like it's just coming from just outside the door, or is it
just
in the room,
outside
possibly?
the door. No, just
Okay.
outside the door. Yeah.
Does Wraith recognize the sound of that droning in the years of toil he's done?
Anyone can give me an insight check to see if they recognize this sound now that it's a bit louder. Wraith, I want you to tell me when you came into contact with what people could only refer to as the head stealer. Not a demon, but a beast of Crifoth.
We were pulling on ropes. There was dozens of us all in a line, pulling on ropes made of human hair. This is when before Wraith had his horns, before he had his red skin. We'd tug on the ropes. If we didn't tug hard enough, we'd feel the sting of a whip on our back. These ropes were connected to some kind of tower, some obelisk made of obsidian itself. We were erecting something. Wraith didn't know what it was, didn't care what it was. And then he remembers the droning sound. It washed away the sounds of the screams, the cryings, the grunts, and the sounds of the hundreds of slaves around him. As the sky darkened, as a swarm of whatever these things are flew overhead, blotting out the red sun that was beating down. It was a moment of respite for Wraith at the time. This big shadow blinking out the heat of the sun for just a moment. He remembered hearing the sounds of the legionaries around beginning to mobilize at the overhead migration or flight of the squadron of head stealers.
Many people died that day, and it all flashes back to you in one painful memory. It's almost as if it came so quickly. It's almost as if someone forcefully shoved this memory into your head. How do you react now that you recognize this noise?
Wraith begins to cower in the corner of this dark building, his hands clutched over his ears. Head stealers. Head stealers. Head stealers. No. Head stealers.
I don't know what a head stealer is, but I'm smart enough to draw my sword. So, and I do so.
Vexana.
And just kind of.
Yeah, sorry.
I just brandish it in front of me. That's all.
This noise is becoming overwhelmingly loud now. It's almost drowning out your thoughts with its constant now buzzing and clicking.
Vexana would take that hunting knife and she just kind of like cuts her palm and she begins to just kind of squeeze a bit of her own blood onto the old floorboards of this room as she mutters in kind of a primordial language as she begins to summon Ember, her elemental, and the floorboards, like as if kind of a hellish fire glows in between the cracks of the rotted wood, and the wood begins to like rumble and crack open, and this like steam from the earth begins to just kind of pour out as this creature of molten rock and flame arises. It's time to see if you two truly have what it takes to be a Blood Knight.
And so the sky begins to darken as this shadow approaches. The buzzing becoming almost unbearable. You can feel your chest almost begin to shake with this noise, with this rumble. You can hear it. You can feel it beneath your feet. And suddenly this swarm, you can see the bodies, these twisted bodies with these razor sharp pincers coming down this road. There's so many of them that they have to make way for the contours of these dilapidated buildings. They almost shape it so perfectly. And you see if one of them gets in the other's way for even just a moment, or like just gets into the way of the other one, it just decapitates it with these sharp pincers. And you see all these bodies just fall to the floor with no head to accompany them. For the most part, do you guys hold? Do you go out? What do you do as this swarm just begins to pass by?
Does it look like they're coming towards us specifically?
No. These things, which are about the size of probably a medium-sized dog, they just seem to be coming down the road. You guys are in the house, so they are passing you for the meantime.
Is this just a one-story house?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna stay put.
Yeah, Wraith continues to hide in the corner of this building.
Is it understood that if we don't engage these things, that they would just move on?
You and Chance have never seen these things before. Even in all your travels, you've never seen anything like this. But I think that they aren't paying attention to you right now. This huge swarm of them just seems to be passing you by.
I mean, she would be prepared, ready to defend herself, but she wouldn't willingly attack it if it wasn't going to, come at them or anything.
Can I get everyone to make like stealth checks? So a couple of them, you hear this giant crash as probably about 5 of them come crashing through some of the boards that have boarded up the windows. 2 of them fall dead on the spot from the impact. But 3 others seem to shake themselves up and kind of begin to slowly start flying again. And you can hear their pincers open and close with that almost metal-like shing, shing, shing. So everyone roll for initiative. So it's going to be Vexana. Okay. So Vexana, you being a seasoned Blood Knight are the first to react to this. What do you do?
So Vexana would she's going to command Ember to go ahead and engage with the nearest one, or at least one that's up to 40 feet away, as it's going to cast or do a ranged elemental attack. So what is it? 2d6. Oh no, that's at level 5, so it's just 1d6. Okay. Let me make the roll there. Okay, so that's going to be a 17 to hit.
Yep, that definitely hits.
All right. And that'll be 6 flame or fire damage.
Okay.
So yeah, she just motions. And I'm sorry, do I get an attack as well, or is my action pretty much commanding my elemental?
I'm pretty sure they get 2 separate actions, right? Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So then on that note, I will also cast my own firebolt
Okay.
at the same one.
Yep.
Okay, 22 to hit, and again that is 6 damage.
Awesome.
So I imagine, yeah, so like she would, the air would kind of like condense around her hand as she produces a flame bolt as it lobs into the creature, and then Ember basically just kind of like scrapes some slag off of his arm and flings it at the same creature as it encases it in flame.
Awesome. All right, Wraith.
And so these things have just crashed into the building.
Yep.
So how far would he be away from one of these things?
Well, you were the farthest away, so only at max 10 feet.
Okay. He would just... He's closing his eyes. And he begins to bite his own lip. And from it, a droplet of blood appears. As he slices this many scarred lip with his fanged teeth, and he smears it across his hand. And then his hand begins to glow. And he points at this creature that's scuttled in front of him. I make a ranged spell attack here. Say 16 to hit.
That's a hit.
All right. So I'm casting Chaos Bolt. So that would be doing 13, 15 points of psychic damage. So I point my finger out, and I'm targeting its brain.
Is this the same one that Vixana hit, or different?
Whatever one's closer to Wraith.
Okay.
And that is the extent of my turn.
Okay. What about you, Chance?
Chance is gonna look around the room. Is this the only entrance that we have? There's just the one entrance that we came in. Is there any other exit?
There seems to be the outline of a frame that you can see. It's letting in a bit of light, but something seems to have fallen in front of it. A large beam from the rafters.
Okay. And how many of these head eaters are there? Because there's
3.
the one.
There's 3 alive, 2 dead. They died from crashing through the window.
Okay. Chance is just going to take her sword, and she's gonna go for the one that Vexana and Wraith have been bombarding. And she's just going to charge and slice.
Okay.
Man, that's a 9 to hit.
That does not hit.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That's 11 to hit.
That still does not hit.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, so this thing, it's just trying to avoid all the hits, and it just happens to dodge yours. So it's the bug's turn. And so one of them hits you, Wraith. And I need you to make a dexterity saving throw, please.
I've been 18 on the dex save.
So this thing goes straight for your neck. But you manage to dodge it in time, but you still get slashed. Somewhere, maybe the arm, and you take 4 points of damage. Vexana, the other one comes at you, and I need you to make a dexterity saving throw as well, please.
That would be a 6.
So this thing lunges at you. And it slices at your neck, doing 7 damage. But you manage to kind of back away from it before it can complete the deed. But you are bleeding fairly heavily. The other one lunges at you, Chance, but you quickly dodge out of the way. You see it coming. So, Vexana, we're back up to you.
Yeah, taken aback, she like puts her hand up to her throat as the just kind of like blood spills forth out of there, and she's just trying to kind of that moment of life flashing before your eyes, like she almost lost her head in this moment because her head's not completely in the game as it was. She stills herself, and she just in a heat of rage, that demon blood inside of her boils up, and from that she just like erupts her hands as these flames just kind of like almost like flamethrowers are just erupting out as this flaming sphere pulls together in the center of the room. And she just motions it forward as it rolls. The whole room, lights up bright. The heat is intense. It's basically, it's like almost standing next to a furnace. And she will roll this over onto the one that she had already attacked beforehand.
Okay.
So this thing, let's see here. They have to make a dexterity saving throw, which is going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 is the target number.
Okay.
Or it'll take 2d6 damage. Let me get that up there.
It does not make it.
Got it. All right. Sorry. Come on, virtual roller. There we go. It will take 12 fire damage.
So you incinerate this bug. And so you can kind of describe to me how you do that with this sphere.
Yes, so this rolling ball of flame just kind of, like I said, it just rolls over onto this creature, and you can see like the shadowy outline of the creature inside the flaming sphere as it begins to, the shadow itself becomes wavy and eventually just kind of dissipates as this thing screams, and kind of you hear like that popping sound if you've ever heard of a bug inside of a fire, just that. and she turns, and her eyes, you can see the flames from the sphere in her, reflecting in her eyes. It's just flickering there as she again orders Ember to hurl another flame bolt at the one that is attacking Wraith.
Okay.
And let me roll that. That probably will not hit. That was a 10.
No, that does not hit.
Yeah, so just this ball of flame just kind of like goes right in front of Wraith, but misses the target and just kind of lobs into the wall.
Awesome. Wraith.
Wraith's got this terrible insect right on him. He reaches up to his hand and bites into it. And then in 2 quick motions, as the blood forms and rolls down his fingertips, they crackle black lightning. I am using a sorcery point to quicken Shocking Grasp and use it.
Awesome.
This thing is not made of metal, so it's not going to be an advantage. I've been 18 to hit.
That is a hit.
Doing 1 point of lightning, and then action, gonna doing this again.
Okay.
That is a 24 to hit. For 6 more lightning damage.
You also kill this head stealer. With this lightning. And I can just imagine that you hit it and it just falls to the ground, beginning to convulse with the electricity just pumping through its body, making its legs, making its little pincer convulsively just go in and out, back and forth, just shik, 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 until it finally stills. Chance. There is 1 bug left.
All right, I'm going to go for it with the longsword again.
Okay.
This time I'm actually going to grasp it in both my hands, kind of learning from a mistake last time, and I'm just going to come down. So mechanically that's going to make it so I'm using the 2-handed damage. Nat 20.
Awesome.
So, all right. How do you do critical hits in Crifoth?
So critical hits, you roll normal damage, but they go straight to blood instead of grit.
Okay. All right, that is 5 damage with the sword.
Yeah, you kill
One
this.
damage.
You kill this thing instantly.
Okay. Can I slice it in half?
Absolutely.
All right, I just kind of like the kind of the parts just like cave in, and like insect matter just splatters against the floor, and the parts kind of twitch a lot, and then they just kind of crumple up and die. And immediately I'm just going to I'm still in combat mode, so I'm just gonna get in an advantageous spot where I'm not visible from outside, but I can see everyone else. And I'm feeling a little proud of myself. Maybe, yeah, not appropriately, but maybe.
And so from that combat, before I forget, each of you guys incur 3 points of exhaustion. And you've noticed as well that during this fight, this large swarm has passed you. And you are ready to set out again. And with that, we are going to take a quick break. So I thank you everyone who is watching. We will be right back. So, you guys have just defeated these bugs, and you've seen the swarm has passed. Are you guys ready to head back out into the streets?
Wraith crawls forth almost on all fours, smelling at the corpse. This bug he's just electrified. He sees that the blood itself is not black blood of demons, and is heavily disappointed. He smears the blood that's on his hand from the fresh bite wound onto his rags of trousers. And he listens for the drones and hears that they are in the distant. And he would twitch his head to motion for everyone to head out of this building.
Vixana, Chance, do you guys head out right away?
Chance probably, as she's sheathing her sword, and she kind of like on her tabard kind of wipes away a little bit of the insect matter and puts and sheathes her scabbard, and she kind of takes a very, very brief glance at the slave woman that Vixana put out of her misery, and just almost immediately averts her eyes again and follows Wraith out, kind of not saying a word.
Vixana would be the last to leave, and before she does, she basically would just release that flame sphere to the point that it would basically just engulf this small dwelling in flames. And as she walks out with the home catching on fire, she in her hand carries this small leather collar, and she puts it up to Chance. Least you forget.
Chance takes it and kind of isn't really sure what to think, but she doesn't say anything.
Vexana looks over at her elemental Ember, and she kind of just kind of like lifts her neck up to where the wound is, and Ember with like it looks like a claw, at least the shape is, but he's made out of flame. And with that claw, he just kind of traces it along the wound, cauterizing it as the smell of flesh kind of fills the air for a moment and seals the wound. And she grits. We have our assignment. We press on.
Yes, yes, yes. We go on. We vanquish demon. We drink its blood. Yes, 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 yes.
And so you guys continue walking. And once again, save for the distant buzzing and the sound of crackling flames, it is once again in silence. And as you walk, you notice storefront after storefront, these dilapidated buildings. Most of the signs have either been lost completely or so far burned, singed, that they are no longer readable. Some, however, have survived despite all odds, and you can read a few of the words. Barber. Well, if any of you can read. But there's the word barber. There's a symbol of a book. There's the symbol of a spoon, maybe. These streets were once lively. They were once filled with people coming in and out of the shops, kids running in amongst the adults playing their make-believe. But now it is silent. Now it is cast in this red glow, a permanent reminder of what happened, of the destruction, the desolation of Crifoth. And these structures stand resolute as a reminder as well of what once was and what will probably never be again. And you walk, and you are going to gain 2 points of exhaustion. But you can feel the day begin to cool. Just a little bit as the two suns get farther and farther apart in the sky. And I need everyone to roll me perception, please. Wraith, you do not hear this, but Vixana and Chance, especially Vixana, you hear this sound, this Chance, you probably don't know what this is, but Vixana, you recognize this as a Blood Knight call. A Blood Knight signal. And as you look around, you see in the shadow the flit of a tail and the shadow of horns.
She would kind of just like motion to her companions, like, hold here. That its signal is that of another Blood Knight. Points out there. And with her staff, she would kind of reciprocate the signal on the ground.
And out of the shadows would come the tiefling, garbed in typical Blood Knight armor, wearing the painted tiefling skull that denotes the Blood Knights. He stands at least 7 feet, and is just full of muscles, and he comes up to you. Are you the one that Victory sent?
We are. And you?
We're the ones whose asses you're supposed to get this demon off of. And he kind of looks at the three of you with a mix of disapproval and scorn. Thought Victory would send someone better. But...
well, we could just leave. That's cool too.
well...
And And Chance stares this guy dead on. I mean, she's not 7 feet tall, but she's not short either.
Mm.
And she is probably too much fire. But
he looks at her.
One day it'll get her killed, not now.
And he spits on the ground. And he says something in Infernal, a word that you all know to be essentially translating to bleached scum. It is a derogatory term that is often used for those who do not drink demon blood. But he says, enough chit-chat. We saw the demon just down that way, creating a huge mess and too much noise for what we need to be doing. If you can't kill it, at the very least be fresh meat for it.
Kill, demon.
And how is it that you have not managed to clean this up yourselves?
And you see this demon, this tiefling, he kind of smiles, bearing these horribly sharp yellow fangs. I got my orders, and you got yours. I expect you not to meddle in my business, as I will not meddle in yours. I was told to tell you where it is. I have. And he turns to leave.
Wraith begins sucking on his hand where he had bit earlier. His hand just almost shoved in his mouth, and he's looking greedily at Vexana. There's ambition in his eyes, fire in his heart.
Vexana would just kind of nod, wait for the other tiefling to move on before she turned back to her companions. And she again flashes her fangs. If Victory thinks that she is going to get me, and apparently you two, to roll over and die as bait, she has another thing coming.
And Chance kind of smiles. She hasn't been smiling, but she kind of is just, and then it disappears, but oh.
Here we go.
That was lucky.
Whatever you did, do not do again. Wraith he's got this hunger in his eyes. And when you're saying, well, we're not gonna die over or roll over dead, Wraith holds out the brand on the back of his hand, the brand of a tiefling skull. We are blood knights. Blood knights. Kill demon. Eat demon.
Just because we are blood knights, that does not mean that we are not expendable among our own.
kill demon. It died. It died.
I like this guy's spirit. I think we should make him think that we're not expendable. And Chance will kind of like draw out her sword just to kind of have it ready and show her enthusiasm to run headlong into something that'll probably kill her.
In that moment, there would be just like this little wind that blows the dust across the sand there, and the little chime, the little charms, the little trinkets from her fallen comrades from before that she had tied onto her staff jingle. Very well. Try not to die. I've already buried enough people today. Come on. And she would lead them to wherever it is they're supposed to be to draw this thing out.
So you guys start walking in the direction that this tiefling pointed. And as you're walking, you can hear the sound of this rustling and grunting noise. And as you guys turn the corner, you see this grotesque image. Its back, it's turned to you, but you can still see its heads. It is just kind of rustling through as a raccoon would through this, what looks like refuse at first, until you take a closer look and you see that it is the charred, desiccated body of something. And it's just sticking the ashes into its mouth.
Wraith sniffs the air. His pupils dilate. His back muscles, they flex. His arms tense. His fingers extend. He takes a deep breath.
Die.
Chance kind of whispers over to Vexa. You ever fought anything like this before?
Each demon comes with its own uniqueness. But no, I have not.
So right now, this thing does not see you. Its back is turned to you. What would you guys like to do?
Wraith would like to prowl up on it, using the streets and the cover as kind of advantage. He's skulked around before, and this is not his first demon skulking rodeo. The irony of it is that usually he was skulking to avoid the wrath of demons, and now he's skulking to inflict his wrath upon them.
So make me a stealth check, please. So this thing does not notice you. Vexana and Chance, you look on as Wraith kind of prowls up to it, just like a cat stalking its prey. And then Wraith, do you pounce? Do you wait? What do you do?
Wraith finds some cover, some opening where he's close enough to engage or ambush this thing. But he looks back. He's kind of perched back on a three-point stance. His tail is flicking in the air. He looks back to the two of them, just kind of waiting for their response, their actions. He just traces a line across his throat with his sharp fingernail. And then a creepy, sly, cunning, predatory grin creeps across his face, showing off all of his teeth that are filed to fangs.
Vexana looks at Chance. Do you have any means of restraining it? I'm not sure of your capabilities yet, so you'll have to fill me in.
Well, I could put it to sleep, I think, if it likes music. And the last bit is a bit more of a joke, probably, but she is serious about the first two parts.
Well, if anything, it may serve as a distraction. All right.
I think our friend there could definitely take a chunk out of it with it asleep.
Well, show me what you got.
Okay. And Chance kind of pulls out this little tiny stone. To call it an instrument is insulting to instruments. It's just this tiny little rock that just happens to have the right number of holes in it, maybe from the time when once where it was an ocean long since dried up. And she kind of slowly approaches, not too close, but just slowly gets a little closer to the demon and starts playing this little whistling melody. And I'm going to cast Sleep on this thing.
Okay.
And I'm a bad player. I don't know what Sleep does off the top of my head. I think it's got to make... Actually, no, I think I need to roll something, and then I need to see how many hit dice I affect. So...
Yeah, it does a 5d8.
Okay. Cool. So, just a second. 2, 1. 15 health. So it creatures within 20 feet of this point you choose within range are affected in ascending order of their current hit points. Starting with the creature that has the lowest current hit points, each creature affected by the spell falls unconscious until the spell ends. Subtract each creature's hit points from the total before moving on to the creature with the next hit points. So...
Okay.
And I rolled 15, so 15 total hit points.
Yeah. This thing kind of shakes one of its heads, the one with the horns, and stands up immediately and glares over at you with its red eyes. It has seen you, both of you. Hasn't seen Wraith quite yet because he skirted around. But you hear this horrible, just this sound, just and this thing begins to charge. So everyone roll initiative, please.
And Chance kind of says, well, that didn't work. And And it was initiative.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. So, Wraith. You see this thing start to charge at your fellow Blood Knights.
I see it charge completely past me, unaware of my position. And that grin just is maintained on my face. I dig into my own palm with my sharp nails. And as I unfurl my hand, the blood that falls out does not fall out to the ground, but instead collects and stacks on top of each other until it forms a whole kind of blade that's 4 feet long and just shimmering and roiling with this liquid blood. That is the spell Shadow Blade. Using it my bonus action, I'll use my movement and then my action to strike at this demon from behind with my Shadow Blade.
Awesome.
And I'm using my Profane Soul Sorcerer ability to use a blood point to make this cast a high roll spell. And I will put effort into this attack roll. Hey, there we go. That'll be a 24 to hit.
That is a hit.
1, 2. This blade would do 12 points, 15 points of psychic damage to it.
Okay. Whoops.
And I am done my turn. I would hiss at it as I strike it.
What kind of damage was it, sorry?
Psychic.
Okay, alright. Cool. This thing, it now knows you're there, Wraith, but it is bounding on all of these limbs, on all fours, towards Chance and Vexana. And Chance, it runs towards you. And it is going to attack. Okay. You see its body twist and morph as it tries to get you with these horrible claws that it has attached to its body. And it hits you for a total of 7 damage. Vexana, this thing is upon you and has attacked Chance. What do you do?
Vexana, just kind of moves out of the way as it charged in and says, I don't think it was any more impressed with your musical ability than I was. And begins to cast Fairy Fire on the area. So it needs to make a dex save of 14.
Okay. It makes it.
No. Okay. Does anything? No. Okay. Well, the area is dim lit. At least for now. But other than that, nothing else happens.
And is that your turn? Unless you want to move away, or...
That is my turn, but I am going to make... I'm looking for dice, and I don't have any here. I'm going to make Ember do an attack roll here. Okay, that is a 13.
That is a hit, yes.
All right, and that's going to be 4 fire damage.
Okay.
And that will be, oh, and I myself will kind of move back at least the 30 feet.
Okay. Okay. Chance.
Yeah,
This thing
Chance. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. Sorry, this thing is on you.
You were gonna describe something cool. Okay, this thing is on me. Anything
Yeah.
else?
Nope.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Chance kind of is a little annoyed by Vexana's comment about her musical prowess, but chooses in the moment to say nothing. And she is just going to kind of whip out her sword again, and then just try to get slash at this demon in front of her that cut her. 18 to hit.
Yeah, that's a hit.
Cool. All right. That's just normal D8. So. All right. 6 slashing damage from me.
Okay.
And is Wraith anywhere near the demon?
Yep, I'm up in melee with it with my.
Yeah, he's
Sort
very,
of
very
blood.
close.
Sweet. Then after I successfully make this strike, I say, you there. Here, now's your chance. Open it up. And I'm going to use my lead by example bardic ability to and spend a bardic inspiration die to allow Wraith to make a weapon attack with his reaction.
So this is in late. Shadow Blade. 14 to hit.
That's a hit.
Nice. The 12 points of psychic damage.
Okay.
With this Shadow Blade.
Okay.
And that's the end of my turn.
All right. Wraith.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, nothing. Just
Okay.
that's it.
All right. Wraith.
After making this opening attack, he's going to go in for another one here still. Just swinging this blade almost wildly, cackling as he strikes. 15 to hit.
That's a hit. Yep.
Okay. Sword does 6, 11, 14 psychic damage. And then he's going to use his bonus action to convert some spell slots to sorcery points. And I'm done my turn.
All right. This thing turns towards Wraith. Less turns and more focuses its heads on you and just goes in to swipe at you. And it hits you. For 14 points of slashing damage as it just rips into you. Vex, you are quite a ways away from it now as you look on.
I can't think of it. Did that other tiefling ever give us his name?
No, he didn't.
Oh, okay, got it. So yeah, she would just so she would yell out, "Now would be a good time," and she would turn back, and that's when she would see that it kind of just unleashed this attack on Wraith, and she would just be overwhelmed. She could, she sees it in her mind, like replaces Wraith with one of her other comrades that fell. And in that moment, she lets out this yell, and with that yell just comes this thunder wave as it rips through just dirt and makes this kind of whirlwind as it flings towards the demon itself. It needs to make a con save, target 14.
Okay. It does not make it.
All right, so it is going to take 2d8 thunder damage. So let me roll that. Okay, so that's going to be 11 thunder damage, and it's pushed 10 feet away.
Okay.
And in addition, any other objects in the area are also pushed 10 feet away. And then, of course, anything within 300 feet could hear the thunderous boom. So, if anything, that would be a signal to those other tieflings, in addition to the other effects.
Nice.
And then Ember, again, just kind of like molten slag, builds up, kind of like down its arms into its hands, and then just kind of like lobs it over at this demon for 19 to hit and 4 fire damage.
All right. This thing is reeling back from where you pushed it, and you can see that there is this almost flame inside this thing's body, and whenever it opens its mouth, you can almost see the light passing through it, and now it just ignites even more, and this flame is just coming out of each of this thing's mouths. Chance.
Oh, my turn. Okay. I'm probably going to do. First of all, I'm gonna try to step behind. No, that's not possible, is it?
This thing is 10 feet away from you.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I see kind of this fire building up in its mouth, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
God, am I a smart tiefling or a not smart tiefling? I think I'd have the sensibility to back up, and I'm gonna back up like 20 feet or so and cast True Strike on myself.
Okay.
So next time I strike this thing, actually I strike it, I cast it on it, but it's just automatic hit, I'm pretty sure. And then next time I attack it, I get advantage.
Okay.
And I probably, as a free action, I'm just gonna say, heads up, looks like something hot's coming out of this.
Wraith.
Wraith is currently recovering from that swipe. He had been knocked off balance and now is collecting himself from his feet and catching his breath. He is gritless, and so he's stunned for this turn. The Shadow Blade remains in his hand.
I need everyone to make a dexterity saving throw, please. So all of you, despite Chance's warning, the one head turns at you and just lets out this horrific looking just cone of fire. And each of you take 13 points, but you guys are resistant, so half of that rounded down. Vex.
Yeah. Vex, although like she braced herself and she's used to the flame, being an elemental druid, the flame is her natural calling. Um, but yeah, she like braces herself against the flame, but she is worn. The day has taken its toll on her. She will make like Ember will come over to her side and almost like protect her as she makes her way over to Wraith, and she will place her hand on him. Sorry, I'm looking up this spell really quick. First level, here we go. And cast Cure Wounds, which is going to be instantaneous for 1d8 plus 2. So, Wraith, do you want to roll it?
First question I have is: are you targeting my blood or my grit for this cure wounds?
What's going to get you back up?
Only blood at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, then I would go for your blood.
It'll cost you 2 spell slots instead of 1.
Do I have? Yep. Yep, that'll be all my level 1s, but that'll work.
So, you want me to roll then?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, I rolled a 5, so that's a 7.
Yep. So yeah, she places her hand on you, and again begins to speak in primordial, and just the ground around you, anything that might have been alive, so to speak, though on Crifoth there's not much, basically dies as its life force kind of pulls back into you. So you could kind of tell like the outline of where your body was or is, that soil is, nothing will ever grow there now.
Awesome. Chance. And is that your turn, Vex? That's...
Oh, yeah, that would be my turn. And I would just have Ember kind of like in front of me and Wraith, just trying to hold off any other attacks that may try to come our way.
Okay. Chance.
I kind of am staggering back, and I see Wraith get blown away, and I'm just like, shit. And then I see Vexana go, kind of running over to him, and it's like, okay. And I grip my long sword, and I kind of step in between where like Wraith and Vexana are, and this demon is, and I just charge headlong at the demon again with my two-handed long sword in 2 hands. So it's going to be a 12 to hit.
That does not hit, but just barely. Just
Correct.
barely misses it.
All right, I imagine that this thing like maybe had to dodge a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely this thing kind of moved out of the way, just out of reach of your swipe. Wraith.
Okay.
You are back up.
Wraith clambers to his feet. His one side of his face is just kind of scorched. His eye has a blink, and then you can see again. His shadow blade of blood has vanished after that strike, after he's knocked unconscious. He gets up, and he sees that demon still standing there. And he just screams. And as he does so, he just lets the blood from his injuries well up and slam into this creature. I'm chaos bolting this thing, so let's see what happens. So I'm making a spell attack against it, but I'm at disadvantage because I am so exhausted right now. Well, with disadvantage, it's still a 15.
Yep, that's a hit.
So let's do some damage. Okay. Let's do some fun math here. So it's 12 damage of the acid variety.
Okay.
And he will then use the rest of his movement to shuffle back even more, finding some piece of rubble to take cover behind.
This monster is going to come at you, Vex. Claws outstretched, snarling, growling. It looks weak. Blood pours from black blood pours from many wounds. The smell is just intoxicating at this point. It fuels you with energy. And as this thing takes multiple swipes at you, you're easily able to dodge it. Whether that be because of this blood has just heightened your senses or because this thing is so exhausted. And Vex, you get to act.
Moving in and around this creature as it's becoming sluggish. Again, she opens her hand as she produces a flame within it. So familiar. And she moves into its side and she just kind of forces the flame up against its body. And let me roll that. That is a 20 modded for 12 flame or fire damage.
Okay.
And Ember moves in almost to flank it and just kind of like snarls as it breathes kind of a flame onto it as well. Same thing, it's just instead of lobbing fire, it's just kind of breathing fire. For, let's see, 17 and 3 fire damage.
Awesome. Wraith. Or sorry, Chance.
If this thing is kind of on its last legs, I'm just gonna try to keep hacking at it with the sword.
Yep.
Okay, this time I got a 15.
Yep. Perfect.
Sweet. And two-handing it. So. All right, 4 damage.
Okay.
Just cutting through.
Wraith, the smell of blood is so overwhelming as both yourself and your companions have just put multiple lacerations on this thing. It is just bleeding so profusely at this point. You can almost taste it. What do you do?
He conjures forth another chaotic stream of energy. He's not very sophisticated or versed in how to control his magic that well. He leaps forth another chaos bolt, attempting to slay and strike this demon. The 13 hit.
Yes. Yep.
Okie dokie. This is another wacko spell. Here we go. So that's going to be 18 points of psychic damage this time around.
That is enough to slay this demon.
And as the demon falls, Wraith just pounces at it, sinking his sharpened teeth into its corrupted flesh.
Vexana and Chance, you see Wraith just go into this thing, this demon. The smell, even for you, Chance, is just very intoxicating. It smells so good. What do both of you do? Seeing Wraith just gorging himself.
Chance is looking at the blood, kind of shaking a little bit. But this isn't necessarily the first time she's done this. And she just tears her eyes away from it and does kind of the usual thing that she does, that keep her concentration. And she takes the blood that's on her sword and she just kind of wipes it off clean of her sword and just sticks it in the scabbard with her eyes closed and just looks around, kind of simultaneously checking the perimeter and also just trying everything just to take her eyes off the blood.
And Vexana would approach Chance and motion towards the collar. Least you forget, child. And just kind of pats her on the shoulder as she moves towards the demon, kneels down, pulls out that knife, and just holding one of its arms up, just kind of cuts along the forearm as the blood begins to just kind of trickle out. And Vexana, already just kind of weak, does not hold back as she kind of engorges herself to replenish her own energies.
And so for those of you who are drinking, for reference, this was a CR4 demon. So when you roll your d20 to see what kind of effects will happen, you will add 4 to your roll. And while you guys are drinking, Chance, you said you're kind of looking around, you're walking around a bit, right?
Definitely, yeah.
You hear the sound of chains as a breeze picks up around you. It's coming from around the building near where you had met that beefy tiefling.
Yeah, and immediately her mind just kind of briefly flashes to the slave that she had met not an hour earlier and saw swiftly take, and she just kind of thinks, oh god, not again. But then just the thought's gone. And it sounded like chains, right?
Yeah.
Okay. She's going to kind of call back to Vexana and Wraith and kind of I just kind of like, I don't call back to them. I get their attention somehow, though, non-verbally, and I call out, but I call out to the whatever the sound is. Who goes there?
You hear nothing. The only thing that responds to your question is the continued sound of clinking chains.
And I kind of like, I look back at Wraith and Vexana. Have they and I kind of like beckon them over, kind of like uh, definitely looking kind of annoyed with them. This, yeah, that's all I'll say for now. But I'm just kind of beckoning him over, and I'm just pointing to the source of the sound, or at least where it sounds like it's coming from.
Yeah, for you guys, it might take a while to stop gorging yourselves. But once you pull away, you notice Chance frantically trying to get your attention.
Yeah, I would imagine Vexana, as she kind of pulls up from drinking, she's got just like, her like chin and just kind of like a little bit down her neck, it just has that demon blood that she's been drinking, and her eyes just kind of have like this demonic reddish glow as she feels that demonic power like coursing through her veins, and looks over to see whatever this thing is that's making the sound.
You hear it as well as you kind of go over to where Chance is. Just this light clinking of chains. But it's around the corner, just a ways, a little bit off, right near where you spoke to the other tiefling. Wraith, do you go over as well?
Wraith is too busy ripping at the entrails of this demon, stuffing them in his face, slurping them like spaghetti, just painting his body with the blood too as he smears these fingerprints and marks all over his body. He's cackling, giggling.
Blood, blood. Stay. It's the blood.
Do either you, Chance, or Vexana, do you follow the noise?
I think. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I would probably not. I'm not gonna go over to the corner. I'm gonna try to see if I can keep moving to the side where I can, like I can, so until I can see past the corner without getting close. If that makes sense. Like I'll just kind of cautiously be peeking over from, far away distance.
As you get closer, the sounds of these chains gets a bit louder, but no other sound can really be heard from getting closer. And you get to the point where it's just around a corner. You're at the same building, but just around the corner of that building is where you would think that the sound is coming from. Vexana, do you follow Chance?
Yeah, I imagine she would, but she would give kind of Wraith like a hard nudge, like an elbow.
Mine.
And he was very exhausted and fatigued before, and now he's just completely invigorated. He almost seems hyper. His movements are jittery and quick.
Vexana would take her knife, and she just kind of like up to just like under your chin. Snap out of it.
So good. So good.
Come on.
We go back now. Yes. Yes. No.
Yes.
Yes.
He would clamber off the corpse of this fiend and give Vexana a follow and follow her very closely.
So yeah, we would move towards where Chance is.
So you guys are at the point where you still cannot see anything, but you're very close if you just round the corner.
Yeah, so Vexana would take the lead. She would just kind of like produce a flame in her hand. So it's pretty much like a torch, and she would move around the corner to see what this clanking chain sound is.
And Vexana, you see 3 tieflings. One of them you recognize as the one who was talking to you, who told you your mission, or continued on. This beefy tiefling with an ego that would never get him killed. But there he is, strung up, somehow connected to this wall by his neck and by his arms outstretched. He has been disemboweled, and they spill to the ground. The same can be said for the other 2 tieflings. Vexana, you see some odd symbols painted with the tiefling's blood on the wall. Chance, have you come around at this point, or Vexana, what is your reaction?
Vexana would just kind of mumble, "A life for a life." 3 tieflings were supposed to die here today. They were not us.
Chance looks around immediately, like whatever, because that guy was not dead when we were talking to him, and we just killed we were fighting the thing. So obvious, putting 2D and 2 together, whatever did this is not what we were fighting. So, and she's gonna look around and see if they're being watched.
Chance, as you look around, you look at these odd symbols that are painted onto the wall, and you realize soon that they are in fact letters to create words. And through some careful mind, just concentration on these words, you can differentiate 6. We are liberation. We are destruction. And Chance, this would reign true. This would reign, not reign true, this would reign very familiar to you, because not a few days ago, you had said these exact same words in your Blood Knight oath. These are the first words that you are to repeat before you become a Blood Knight.
And I'm so sorry, my mind stabbed itself when you said the last part. We are liberation, we are destruction.
Yes.
Is that what it said?
Yep.
Okay. And she just kind of stares at it, like it catches her eyes immediately, and she's just kind of staring at it, and she just says it under her breath again. We are liberation, we are destruction. And I mean, she can kind of read, but she can't read very well, and so it takes her a second to sound out everything. And kind of like, and then she kind of snaps herself out of it a little bit, and she says, "Hey," and she kind of nudges Vixana. Can you read? And she like yeah. Can you read? Yes.
I would say being a nomad probably not.
And she points to the markings, and she says, "That's the Blood Knight oath. You know, we are liberation, we are destruction. It's written in their blood up there." What? Why?
Perhaps the so-called demon that we fought was not the demon that we sought. A demon nonetheless, but perhaps not the demon we were actually sent to kill.
Demon.
Shit.
Demon.
I wondered why a demon would give other Blood Knights such hell, and yet 3 very capable Blood Knights before us could not dispatch the one that we killed. No, whatever did this is the true threat.
Shit. And she's gonna continue looking around. And she's definitely a little paranoid. And her heart's not racing, but it's definitely increased in tempo, and she can kind of feel it a little bit as she's looking around. Her sword is still drawn. It was not drawn, but now it is drawn. And she's looking around.
But we were sent to kill a demon, and that is what we did. So we will return. And with that, Vexana would go back to where the carcass of the demon is, so that she can at least remove like one of its heads to bring it back as proof that they did indeed dispatch a demon.
And Chance lingers behind a little bit, kind of looking at these manacled, eviscerated tieflings, and she doesn't know what to think immediately, but it's not a good feeling at all. But the last thought that lingers in her mind before she goes off to follow Vexana is she can't help but feel a little bit of vindicated from this tiefling that just called her an awful slur, just getting eviscerated. And then she leaves.
And so, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Scuttles back to the corpse, following Vexana. Almost as like territorial, like, no, it's my corpse. I killed it, it's mine. And then as you sever the head, I look longingly at the blood splatter caused by the severing. And I look at my possessions, my meager ones at that. I have but my water skin. And I would chug whatever water's in there, maybe even splash on my face a bit, and then use that water skin and bloodlet this demon to fill it, storing some blood for later.
We go.
Yeah, Vexana would just put the severed head into whatever, like a burlap sack, tie it off, And you can see like it begins, even in the sack, just like its blood begins to stain the outside, and it becomes, you know, heavy. And even as they would walk through the desert, it would leave a steady drip of blood along the way.
Absolutely. And as you guys make your way back, it's quiet, peaceful, as the sun's set for your 4 hours of darkness that falls on Crifoth. You eventually get back to the Blood Knight base. You get in, and you find Victory sitting with some other Blood Knights. They have some sort of drawing out in front of them. They're talking quite animatedly, but as you guys come in, they stop.
Weren't expecting to see us again, I expect. And she just kind of like lobs this blood-soaked bag across the table as it just kind of thuds and rolls over to Victory. One demon, as promised.
And Chance kind of like crosses her arms and stands a little bit behind Vexana as if she was the one that said, yeah, one demon to go to hell.
I kill demon. I kill demon. Yeah, demon tastes good. Good. Yes.
And so Victory bends down, picks up this bag and looks into it. No reaction on her face. She closes it up, tosses it to one of the other tieflings, and looks back at all three of you. Very good. You've passed. You have earned a bit of a respite. We will send someone to your quarters when you are to be sent on your next mission.
In the meantime, you might want to send somebody to recover the corpses of the other 3 tieflings you left out there.
Yes. Unfortunate, for sure. But I'm sure the Scarbirds would do quite a good job before anyone can be sent out there. You are dismissed.
And Vexana, she would give the Blood Knight salute as she just kind of turns and walks out.
Wraith, his gaze lingers on Victory. And one last time he says,
I kill demon. Yes.
as before he slinks away to whatever tent or dwelling he has to shack in. He's clutching the blood-soaked water skin close to his chest, as if it were a precious teddy bear or some priceless trinket. Is this plump blood sack?
Yes, mine.
And Chance, kind of like a typical new recruit, does the salute, but she does it a little like, she just goes a little bit too up and beyond, and like she just kind of does all the motions and does the salute, and then and then just kind of walks off formally and bows a little bit. But now, do we all have kind of like a one quarters as a crore, or do we all have our own whatever we had before we joined the Blood Knights?
No, it's more like there is just this mass, maybe 2 rooms, just filled with beds and Blood Knights. Some Blood Knights even have to sleep on the floor, depending on how many there are.
Well, now there's 3 new open beds, so.
Yes.
Sweet.
And so, as the suns set into darkness and a cool breeze, cooler at least, sweeps across the land of Crifoth, that is where we will end our first session.
I will say one thing, that before the night ends, that Vexana, away from her 2 companions and away from any other Blood Knights, as much as she has put on a tough visage today, in the darkness, alone, she weeps.
And on that note, very fitting for Crifoth, weeping in the night. So that was When Streets Run Red. Welcome to Hell. Thank you everyone for watching and playing. Thank you to these wonderful players who have done an awesome job. I am so excited to play again. Once again, there was Wraith, played by Connor, Vexana, played by Alan, and Chance, played by Anna. Thank you everyone, and everyone have a good night.